The Unlovely Truth discusses what happens at the intersection of faith and true crime, so some of our topics may be difficult for young or sensitive listeners. Please use discretion. Thanks for joining me for Season 2, Episode 14. Let's dive right into this month's featured unsolved case. Friday, December 8th, 2000, was a beautiful day in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The temperature was in the upper 50s by the time school let out for the day. 10-year-old Joshua Lee Walden was enjoying the mild weather by riding his 20-inch Magnum bicycle, which he had painted a dull red. He was seen by witnesses near his family's home in the 4500 block of 14th Avenue, wearing a red shirt and black jeans. Then he was never seen alive again. His 17-year-old sister Crystal was busy with her newborn, but when she realized how late it was and that her parents didn't know where Josh was, she reported him missing. It was just after midnight, in the early moments of Saturday, December 9th. No one really knew why the 10-year-old hadn't been missed until now, but police immediately started a neighborhood canvass and began to interview Josh's friends and family. They say that all were cooperative and helpful. That long Saturday dragged by so slowly as people searched everywhere for Josh, but no one could find him. Police officers continued to search for him on December 10th, along with friends and neighbors of the Waldens. His brother Jonathan was with his friends, exploring a wooded area off the 3100 block of 16th Avenue, near the East Lake Duck Pond. It was only about a half a mile from the Waldens' home, and less than 2 miles as the crow flies to the Georgia state line, less than a 10-minute drive by car. It's worth noting that offenders often strike across jurisdictional lines to try to stay one step ahead of authorities. As the boys tromped through the woods, they suddenly came across a body lying in a depression in the ground. It was covered with leaves, so they couldn't see a face, but surely it was Josh. Shocked and scared, they ran home. An autopsy of Josh's small body revealed that he had been suffocated, probably as someone compressed his chest or stomach. He wasn't strangled, so some people have wondered if his death could have been an accident, and the perpetrator got scared and ran off. The autopsy also found superficial abrasions on Josh's nose and the right side of his face, but no major wounds and no sign of sexual assault. But Josh's bike was missing, as were his shoes and socks. Josh was a particular kid about having his shoes on at all times, and even wore them to bed. As an investigator, I have to wonder why someone who never took his shoes and socks off would suddenly take them off outside in December. If Josh didn't do it himself, then whoever killed him probably took them off of him. But why? Was there a scuffle and some blood or other source of DNA got on the shoes? Or were they a trophy, something to keep as a reminder of what the killer had done? The clues that police found led nowhere, and the case went cold. A year after Josh's remains were discovered, investigators told his family and the media that his killer had doused his body in muriatic acid. It's a form of hydrochloric acid, and the colorless liquid has a very strong and distinct smell. It's extremely caustic and gave Josh's body the appearance of having been burned. Was the perpetrator or an accomplice trying to destroy evidence? Ironically, though, the acid actually preserved the remains and kept animals from disturbing the scene. Chattanooga detectives checked with the FBI at the time for similar cases, but found nothing they could link to Josh's case. The FBI did prepare a profile of the offender later and thinks that the perpetrator disposed of Josh's body and retreated to somewhere familiar. They believe he might have lived in the neighborhood at the time or was at least familiar with it. It could be near a job or the house of a friend or family member. He would have needed access to muriatic acid and some experience using it, or it would have been easy to burn himself as well. The acid is commonly available at hardware and home improvement stores, and it's used to clean concrete and brick, as well as in swimming pool and spa maintenance. Auto shops also use it, as do some people who manufacture methamphetamine. None of the news sources that I checked mentioned this being looked into. But then the police often hold back information to sort out people with actual evidence from people trying to insert themselves into investigations. The FBI also believes that the perpetrator probably had contact with Josh before his death. Investigators may have spoken with the offender during the initial investigation. Yet even with the FBI's help, Josh's case is still long cold. His family has wondered for over 20 years what happened to him. No family should have to endure that. The Hamilton County District Attorney's Cold Case Unit has taken a fresh look at the case in the last couple of years. They again called in the FBI and is asking for the public to help. Joshua is one of the office's youngest cold case victims, and investigators have never stopped working on his case. They hope to see justice for Joshua Walden soon. New tips have come in, and authorities hope to generate leads with news coverage and other accounts from the time of Joshua's killing. It is so hard for us to fathom that there are people who could kill a child. The U.S. Department of Justice says that in 1996, just 4 years before Joshua died, 20% of the murderers of children were also children. Could that be the case here, with an adult helping to cover up the crime? Or did it begin as a sexual attack that went very bad, very fast? I think there are people out there who know exactly what happened, and that's why I believe that this case is solvable. There are lots of threads on the internet discussing the case, with quite a bit of information that I couldn't substantiate, so I'll leave you to check them out or not. If anyone listening has posted information, please be sure to contact the police with what you know if you haven't already. And for listeners who lived in the Chattanooga area in 2000, think back to that weekend in early December. Did you see anyone with burns that looked like they'd been made by chemicals? Was anybody acting really nervous or overly interested in the search for Joshua? If you remember or know or suspect anything at all, or even if you've just heard what you think is a rumor, please contact the DA's Cold Case Unit at 423-209-7470. That's 423-209-7470. Or send an email to coldcases@hcdatn.org. When you share the podcast, you're also sharing hope for families whose loved ones' cases are featured. It only takes a few seconds to hit share and leave a short comment to get people's attention. I love a saying that last week's guest, fellow PI Carrie Kursky, once told me. Take 5 to tell 5. Just take 5 minutes out of your day to share with 5 people. If everyone who hears this podcast did that, Joshua's family just might get the answers they've waited over 2 decades for. You can be a true crime hero with that simple act. Tag The Unlovely Truth when you share, and you'll get a shout out on my next episode. We just celebrated Easter, and some of Jesus' teachings from the last week of his life here on earth make me think so much about our search for justice for Joshua. As Jesus and his disciples were preparing for the Passover, Jesus continued to teach at every opportunity he had. He cleared the temple of the money changers who were taking advantage of those who had come to make sacrifices and to worship. The Pharisees' attempts to trap Jesus were picking up steam. In response to what they hoped was a question that would trip Jesus up, he told them that the greatest commandment was to love God with everything you have, and just like it, the next was to love your neighbor as yourself. He called out people who follow church rules but neglect justice, mercy, and faithfulness. He rightly says that they should have done both. If any of us are neglecting any acts of justice, mercy, or faithfulness that are in our power to do, stop and think about Joshua Lee Walden. He needs someone who knows what happened to him to come forward. Who in your life needs you to do the same? You won't be alone. The Unlovely Truth Tribe has your back. You're part of a community that prays for each other, helps each other, and holds each other accountable. We can see justice happen in this world, and your next step may be the one that gets it done. The Unlovely Truth is written and produced by me, Lori Morrison. Music is by Neil Cortex, and artwork is by Shelby Hyland. Check out the links in the show notes for more information on Joshua's case. See you all next time.